Welcome back, my friends. I have a tale to tell before the tavern closes tonight. I have come a very long way and seen so many places. I have heard many stories, and I am happy to be here now to share them with you. So, gather round. Tonight, we have a special tale. One I only recently learned that ties into one of the first tales I told in this tavern. This is the story of a magician, a wise young elven caster from the Empire of Owaine, home to the Magician King. This mage came from humble beginnings, but through their efforts they saved their home from a dangerous threat and changed the face of magic forever. Around 200 years ago, at the start of the Age of Songs, years after the War of Sorrows had ended, Percival Abrigal was born in the East. Many centuries ago, the East was but one kingdom, the Kingdom of Merthea. However, even then their hatred of mages ran deep. Percival's mother noticed her boy was speaking to the trees, the birds, bending the world around him as instinctively as a fish swims. She knew the signs. Elven culture had long fractured, its many clans forgetting where they had come from. But elven people still carried much of the knowledge their ancestors had. She knew her boy was to be a spellcaster, and knew that if the inquisitors and clerics of the High Eastern religion learned of her son's gift, he would be in danger. She set off, her baby on her hip, walking for days to the Kingdom of Owaine, at the foothills of the Waywind Mountains. She had heard rumors of the Mage King, a place where magicians could be safe under the guidance and protection of one of the strongest spellcasters in the land. The two found safety, comfort. Percival was well educated in the magical arts, although back then magic looked very different. World-speaking and world-sparking magic were the primary formats, requesting the world and her elements to aid you or creating elements of your own spirit to bend and manipulate freely. Of course, imbuing objects with magic, rituals, mutational magic, and some of the other noble arts were practiced. However, Percival excelled at elemental world-speaking. The young magician had spent years fostering friendship with fire, becoming an ally to animals and the wind. It was said if Percival cried, the rain would get heavier, and when he laughed, the wind would pick up speed. As he grew, his services were adopted by the current Magician King, Alyssa Owaine. She saw his great talent and employed him as a marshal of her lands, a career Percival took to with pleasure and pride. He would wander the foothills, checking on towns, investigating magical rumors, protecting people from monsters. He quite liked his life. Never was he alone. In towns he could speak to the people, and on the road he could speak to the animals and the plants. You may be wondering, how did Percival manage to world-speak so effortlessly? While it's true, to speak to the world requires magical energy, surely he wasn't drinking Star Watcher's potions constantly. Percival was an archon, a near-endless fountain of magical energy, his spirit ambiently staying filled with the arcane as he breathed. They are a rare breed, but a truly powerful group. However, Percival's quiet and humble life would soon change forever. One especially cold day when the leaf-bearing trees had already turned orange and the rain was promising to soon be snow, Percival wandered down a quiet road towards a town he had grown fond of. Too busy speaking to the trees around him, he hadn't even noticed as his horse walked into the center of town. When he realized where he was, his heart shattered. The town had been razed. Not a building stood, some burned, others were crushed under some enormous weight. He looked around, finding no survivors for him to save, no semblance of what this place used to be. Corpses, torn to ribbons. Bodies burning, some crushed in their homes with no chance to have escaped the attack. He got off his horse and tried to speak to the world, but it simply wept. The grass could not contain its sorrow long enough to whisper to him. The wind screamed with a fury he had never heard before. The flames carried a melody, the motif of something living. When a magician casts a spell, the song that is their soul is poured into the song of the element they are acting upon. This song was loud. Percival now knew that the perpetrator was a spellcaster, something sentient with its own magic. He rode as quickly as he could down the road in search of whatever did this, whatever hurt these people, but there was nothing to be found. Days passed. Percival began to ride from village to village to try and warn people to flee the area. Some towns were fine and took his warning seriously. Others were already destroyed in the same showing of flame and brutality. Percival racked his mind, pondering on what could do such a thing. However, he did not ponder long. He received a letter from the Mage King. She had requested his presence back at the capital. When he arrived, he saw the issue immediately. He rushed to the castle where the Magician Queen sat, quietly watching out her window, and the two stared in broken-hearted awe at a gigantic dragon, impossible in size, a great dragon, the first great dragon, Florian, the dragon of the Wayward Mountains. The people of Owaine knew Florian. He was a protector, a guardian, but here he stood before the castle of the Magician Kings, bellowing fury, flames dancing in the air. He demanded her throne. He had been the one to rout the Lord of Sorrow's minions and therefore should be the king of the Magician Empire. He was once a magician himself, and with his power turned himself into something far greater than he had ever been before. Surely no mage king before or since was so powerful. Percival asked what Queen Alyssa intended to do, and she shook her head with a sigh. She was an enchanter, not a battle mage. She could not win this fight, nor could any other mage in the kingdom. Percival told her he could do it, but she shook her head again. He was a world speaker. His magic sometimes failed, sometimes lightning and fire would refuse to hear him, sometimes the wind would not bow. He told her he would solve this, and ran to one of the castle's many libraries to study and find a solution to this problem. Weeks passed. The great dragon Florian stood before the gates, burning any and all people or supplies that attempted to enter the city. Food was becoming scarce as Percival felt as though he was losing his mind. He must have read every magical text in the city. Hundreds of tomes and scrolls detailing spells, theories, ancient spellcasters. And he found nothing. The mages could grow small amounts of food within the walls, but whenever their magic would break the storm so their crops could have a moment of light, the great dragon brought the storm back tenfold. Magician King Alyssa was considering surrender. There was nothing they could do to this threat, and perhaps he was right. If no mage is stronger, why shouldn't the great dragon be in charge? However, he was crazed, manic. The years of sitting in silence had worn his mind thin and fragile. Queen Alyssa had called knights from the east to slay him, but they were no match. Warriors from the north had no advantage. Magicians from the desert had made progress, but Florian's magic was simply stronger. When the queen told Percival she intended to surrender the city, at least then she could evacuate the people and their nation might live on. Percival tried to protest. It was clear he had not slept in weeks. His wolf-like eyes were heavy and dull. She told him to rest. She would need his guidance in the morning. Percival went to see his mother in the lower town. He laid quietly in her arms as she wept in fear. He sat out in the rain when night fully fell. In his mother's eyes, He saw no expectation for him to fix this. She didn't need him to. She just wanted her family to be safe. Percival appreciated the lack of pressure, but a voice within him screamed with pain that she did not believe he could fix this. She did not believe he could win. He couldn't stand to see his mother cry, and he couldn't accept that she had been certain there was no solution. He walked out of the city gates, drenched in rain, eyes heavy and aching from days of reading. He stumbled across the field to the foot of the great dragon. The dragon Florian bellowed a laugh, demanding the young elf explain his presence before him. Percival shook his head with a sorrowful laugh, and told the dragon he was here to stand up for what is right. Percival apologized to the great dragon. He apologized that people had not shown him the gratitude he deserved as a hero, but told him that whatever he was owed had been paid in the blood of those he had killed in his childish fury. The great dragon lifted his tremendous foot, preparing to crush Percival, but the young mage just stood still. Taking a deep breath, he began to sing, to speak a poem to the very soul of the world, the same way Florian did all those years ago. May we be better tomorrow than we were yesterday. May we forgive all the sorrow, all the debts yet to pay. Suffer not those who can't, drop their blades and rest. Allow evil be scant, we are too tired to test. Forgive us our fools, they speak not for us all. Offer us good folk the tools to rise after each fall. Each morn when I rise, I speak to the moon, my eyes raised to the sky. Please let the end not be soon. The world need end once only, yet it ends every single day. We call calamity our homes, we need not pay today. Grant me the moment, strength just for this breath. Grant me grace so potent, spare me today from death. And the great dragon Florian and Percival stood in the field, silent as the wind and rain cascaded through the foothills. No great transformation was seen, no tremendous display of magic there was. The great dragon Florian had beseeched the world with poetry before, but he had appealed to the world's self-interest. Percival was speaking a prayer to humanity, to fate, and there was no answer. The great dragon's maw filled with orange flame as it prepared to erase the annoyance that stood before him. When down from the heavens, a single swirling ball of light fell, gently, like a feather swaying on the breeze. It was beautiful, shimmering like silver. When Percival reached out to touch it, the light turned a cool blue and began to dance around his fingertips, forming into leaves, flowers, tree branches, and pine needles. His body became encased in glowing blue light, knotted bark and branches adorning him. The dragon attempted a swipe of his claws, but Percival stepped back, and in a flash of light the field was full of hundreds of him. Colored starlight, forming clones, illusions. The dragon released a torrent of flaming breath, but the illusions exploded into glowing blue leaves that hovered in the air before flying towards him with incredible speed, burning his scales, cutting small holes in his wings. He roared with fury as Percival's illusions began to fade. The young mage took a deep breath, as behind him a constellation of balls of light began to dance. The dragon released another assault of burning breath, but one of the balls of light exploded, becoming a shield of knotted blue wood, protecting Percival. It shattered like glass. The other orbs of light popped, the array breaking apart to release hundreds of dagger-like leaves into the air, flying towards Florian's eyes in a hurricane of incredibly fast moonlight. The The great dragon barely defended himself as the clouds began to part. Percival looked to the moon, and sighed as its beauty met his gaze. He looked down at the great dragon, and, from the single large orb of moonlight that followed Percival, a massive tree exploded out, glowing blue light forming into the trunk of a massive fir. Florian didn't have enough time to react, and the trunk of the massive tree punched through his wing, the branches growing over his skin to hold him in place. Percival was readying to summon another tree, but the great dragon broke free, ready to continue the fight, but fear clutched his heart. The great dragon had never been wounded. He flew away as best he could with the hole in his wing, roaring into the night and crashing here, in the Waywind Mountains where he rests and recovers today. Percival just stood, stunned by what had just transpired. Not only had mages never bent the will of the heavens before, but Percival had never seen magic so intricately shaped. He spent years studying what he had done, learning of fonts, the shape of an individual's magic. He learned of illusions and the strange new abilities granted to those who could communicate with the arrays of stars in the sky. He taught others, and from there hundreds of new subgroups of magician were born. Percival would always wonder why Florian's mind shattered in the way it did. I learned this tale in Owaine, as many great teachers of magic use it as a primer to learning cosmic spellcasting. I was heartbroken. Florian was my friend. I went to see the great dragon after I heard this, and he admitted to me it was true. He filled in the details I could not learn from those who live there today. After the battle, Florian's mind began to repair itself. He had been lonely, aggravated, and instead of talking to those around him, he acted as a guardian should. He pretended as though his feelings were false, and when they didn't go away, he broke. I wanted to tell this story as a follow-up to my tale about Florian that I told you a while ago. I learned an important lesson from this story. Not only did Florian lie to me, claiming that the armies of the East attacked him for no reason, but this story is a reminder that heroism is often messy, bloody, and rewritten. Florian saved our people, but he went mad when no one offered him the respect he deserved. I am certain Percival's tale is missing some details. Same with any other hero I've spoken of. I know this story is a harder one, and I apologize for that. But not every story I tell can have a happy ending. Next we meet, I will tell you more of the tale of our good king, Will Beckron. His first few years as king were difficult, and his approach to those trials and tribulations caused him to grow into the wonderful king we miss so dearly today. Until then, I thank you all for being here tonight, as always. I thank my band. I have a tome of tales from every nation to share with you all. I have seen many monsters, many heroes. I have learned of the magic offered by the gods and the magic humans can conjure for themselves. I have seen warfare, and I have tales of peace. I cannot wait to tell them all to you. Good night, and thank you. Legends of Lorelei is an immersive, fantasy fiction audio drama produced by Livewire Stories. This show is written and produced by Gwen Fullman. The music you heard in this episode was composed and performed by Gwen Fullman. The Bard is played by Gwen Fullman. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear more, please consider subscribing to our Patreon at Livewire Multimedia Stories to receive episodes a week early for only $2 a month. You will also receive updates on our projects, like the tabletop role-playing games or short films we've been working on. Check out our website at livewiretabletop.wixsite.com/livewire. Subscribe to us on YouTube, or join our Discord server in the description below. The best way you can support us is to show this to a friend. Thank you.